Hi everyone, welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas. I'm Teddy Atlas III. I'm joined by my main man, your host, my father, Staten Island's finest, boxing legend, Teddy Atlas. How we doing, bud?
I'm embarrassed for my son talking so nicely about me. It embarrasses me a little bit, but I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody here. I appreciate our new man here who's helping Richie and Sam as always, and Rob and you and all the people out there that make this, give us a reason to do this show. And before we get started, before I let you get started leading the way, I just want to send, for all of us, I just want to send our prayers out to the West Coast, to all the people out there in California that have been suffering and dealing with the wildfires out there. Things are getting better, thank God. But it's such devastation. Just so many people's lives that have been destroyed and taken. The ultimate. People have lost their lives and lost all their possessions and just everything. But the one thing about this country is that we always come back. That's why I think this show, the name of it fits right in, the fight, because with the fight fans, it just connects with what the United States of America is. It's a country of fighters, and there's no doubt that all those people will come back, the ones that are there, and even though they've lost so much, they will come back. And the thing that I feel proudest about this country is that when something bad happens, everybody joins together to help those that have been hurt. Everybody. I mean, strangers, people you never would have ever thought about, all of a sudden, in any ways they can, by sending donations, by sending goods, by just by sending messages. Everybody starts to come together because they want to help their fellow Americans, their fellow citizens, their brothers, their sisters. So that it's a horrible thing that we've been seeing on the news to the point where I didn't want to see it anymore. But the beautiful part of something horrible is just a reminder of how many people have reached out to help people, how many people have just done everything they can to try to make things better for all those people that they don't know and they might never know, but that they care about. That's the greatness of this country. That's the greatness of our people, the citizens of this country. So I just want to say that, and I just want to remind everyone how grateful you have to be for every day on this planet, for everything you have, even if it's not exactly what you want to have sometimes. You always have to hope to get more, but you do have. Should never forget what you do have. And the people around you, if you're blessed enough to have good people around you and family and friends. So take it away. I just felt that it was important to just send that out from all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with all those affected in California, as you said, which will lead us into our show, talking about California. Main event came from California. A lot of speculation. Would the fight be able to take place still? And the UFC not only was able to find a way to do it for UFC 311, but to continue to do what they do and strive. They set the record, the highest grossing main event in MMA history in California, there in Inglewood, California, for UFC 311. So pretty impressive, obviously, under the circumstances, and gave the fans hopefully a little relief and some fun and able to go out and watch some of the great fights. So with that being said, we'll start off with the main card, the first fight of the evening. It's the middleweights. Kevin Holland fought Rainer De Ridder. This fight didn't last too long. It didn't take long for De Ridder to get Holland to the ground. I think it took all of 5 seconds. And once he got him to the ground, he kept him to the ground. He worked some ground and pound, worked over to his positioning, and he was able to finally get the stoppage in the first round. Extremely impressive by the Ritter. I take nothing away, not disrespecting Holland, but I'm disappointed. I'm confused. I want to hear your take. He seems to me to be a guy who doesn't fight anymore to win. He fights for money. He's lost now 4 out of his last 5 fights. You know, a guy who, to me, doesn't belong at 185 pounds. Maybe he should move back down in weight. Gets taken to the ground, like I said, 5 seconds in, and he's unable to move from there. But congratulations to De Ridder. What'd you think of the fight and De Ridder's performance?
Yeah, listen, there's no layups in the UFC, so I get what you're saying, but it's not like he's, you know, he's been given a chance to regroup after a bad moment. You know, in a lot of other sports, you have a bad space, you have a bad run. In my sport, in boxing, you get a feel-good fight, you get a confidence builder, is what the old-timers called it. There's no confidence builders, really, for the most part. You know, maybe if you're a super duper star, in a way you might get, but even that, it's not the normal confidence builder. It's still a tough fight. And so it's hard to regroup. It's hard to come back, you know, when you're when you fall into a you know, a bad part of your career, a bad moment of your career. It's very hard because, again, there's no layups. There's just no easy fights. There's no gifts, you know, under the Christmas tree. There's coal. That's about it. You know, you're not getting any presents. Having said that, the Ryder looked so big, so strong, to your point. He really did. He looked massively big. And he was so good. I mean, so good on the floor. He went right for the takedown. He knew what he wanted to do. He got control on the floor, on top. Holland defended. He was defending on the ground with his legs around Riddler's waist. He was ground and pounding him. I thought Ritter was impressive on the floor. Obviously got the submission. He's a southpaw. At least when he was striking, he started in a southpaw position, stance. He used the jab to close the gap, so he knew how he was going to get in close to take the takedown or to get the takedown. And then, as you said, as I just said, he dominated on the ground, finished with the rear naked choke. Just very big and strong, but also technically solid, very impressive. I'll tell you what else was impressive, that arena. That was a beautiful arena. I mean, it reminded me a little bit, we had the privilege of doing a UFC fight, being at the UFC fight at the Spear in Las Vegas, the first time that a combat sport was ever at the Spear. Dana White and UFC did what they do. They were the first to be there for that, to christen that in that kind of way. And it reminded me a little bit of the Spear, you know, just the way that they showed the pictures on the screens and on the walls, and the just how descriptive everything was. It's a beautiful arena. I wasn't aware of it, but anyway, I don't think it looked that beautiful to Kevin Holland, I guess, at the end of the day. But I thought it was a beautiful place. So
the Intuit Dome, and no, I agree with you. I mean, you did see some of those gadgets, right? You saw the smoke coming out. You saw the lighting throughout. It seemed like a really cool scene to watch a fight at.
Yeah, it was.
Well, we'll see what's next for De Ridder. Big things in his future after that impressive performance, and we'll see where Holland goes next. Does he reboot at 185, or maybe he does think about returning back down in weight and moving down? So we will see what is next for both of those guys. We'll keep it moving. The second fight on the main card, we had heavyweights, Jolton Almeida, Sergey Spivak. Two undersized heavyweights, all right? Guys that, at least according to today's standards, we're accustomed to seeing some bigger heavyweights. Started off both guys in the first round taking their turns, transitioning, reversing on the mat, both getting in control on the top until they got stood up. Once they got stood up, Almeida landed a beautiful right hand, just dipped off to the side, put a combination behind it, sent Spivak to the ground. Once he got him to the ground, he was able to pound him, flatten him, get the finish, gets the KO in the first round. What'd you think of Almeida and his performance?
Yeah, listen, these guys look big enough to me. They don't look. I think part of it, Bud, is that Almeida, he's in such not only phenomenal shape, but the guy is all muscle. He's got an unbelievable body, unbelievable genetics. And maybe that's what makes him look compact, where you don't appreciate that he's a pretty big heavyweight, but he's a heavyweight, put it that way.
I mean, he's 235 pounds. We're used to seeing Francis Ngannou and even Tom Aspinall. We're talking 255, 260 and growing these days. So that's why I say undersized. To me, he's a little bit of a tweener.
Yeah, oh, that's a big tweener. But he's compact. His body is incredible. There's no fat on him. And, I guess when you're fighting a polar bear, you can't have any fat on you, because that's what Spivak's fight name is, the polar bear. But Spivak got the early takedown, but wasn't able to do much with it. He started landing, although he did start landing some elbows and ground and pounding on top. But Almeida got a reversal. Am I impressing you with my knowledge of my growing knowledge of my verbiage in the MMA world? Richie's putting his thumb up. Him and Sam are MMA fighters. They train in MMA, so they appreciate it. He got a reversal. Almeida, he got on top, and then he got the back of Spivak. These guys really impressed me. They always amaze me. He looked like a crab wrapped around him with his legs and arms, and then Spivak turned and got on top and back and forth. First round, then, back, that first round, the beginning was, it ended abruptly, but it was back and forth, then back on the feet, and at the end, Almeida did what you said. He showed an ability to strike, not only strike with power, but to strike accurately, to throw the right kind of punches, to throw combinations. He got on. He hurt Spivak with a nice combination. Then he got on top of him on the ground, and as you said, he finished him. When he did hurt him, it was with a right hand, and then he switched really smoothly to the right uppercut. I was very impressed with his, it wasn't a lot of striking, but it was so efficient. It was so effective. He landed those clean shots. Like I said, he threw nice, accurate punches. He's an impressive athlete. Fast hands, power, good technique, standing on the ground, both. There was nothing to not like about Almeida, including that he looks like he could go into a Mr. America contest and pose and probably do pretty good at that too.
No question. Well, talking about big heavyweights, after the fight he called out Cyril Gane. We'll see if that's next, but in the meantime, I look forward to seeing whoever it is. He's now 8-1 in the UFC. All his wins by stoppage except for one. And just another extremely impressive performance to add to his resume. So with that, we're going to move on to Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill.
Prochazka.
Look at this. You correcting names. You becoming the guy to correct and give the right pronunciation.
The nerve of me. The nerve of me. No, seriously, Sam's shaking his head. Everything's going crazy over here. Lights are flickering and on and off. You know, a little lightning just came into the room. It just missed me. How dare I correct my son or anybody when it comes to the proper way to pronounce names. But
you got it right, and I needed a little help there, so I appreciate the assist.
Every dog gets his day, Sam. Every dog gets his day, Sam. And Rich.
Yuri, both of these guys, first fight back coming off of knockout losses to Alex Pereira, the king, obviously, at the light heavyweight division. This was a wild fight, a fun fight, highly entertaining. These guys were throwing everything, kicks, punches, you name it, with bad intentions, non-stop action. Other some breaks in the second round, we did have some eye pokes, and I thought Jamal Hill needed it. I thought he was gassed. He was breathing out of his mouth. He was emptying the tank early on. I thought he needed those breaks probably more than Yuri. But once they got back into the action, they continued where they let off, just nonstop. I thought Hill, supposed to be the more technical fighter, he was often putting himself in bad positions. He was lunging, loading up, too many big shots, sacrificing his balance, leaving too many openings, which allowed the unconventional Yuri to do what he does and fill it with his unpredictable style. And that's exactly what he did in the third round. He caught him with a big shot, was able to get the finish. What'd you think of the fight?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said. I'm going to veer a little bit to the side with it. But I'm going to take a lead off of what you just touched on, that we expect Hill to have better form and better technique, and he has through the history of his fighting. I think the surprise for me here was not that. The surprise for me is that Jiri was more controlled, more contained. He didn't make as many mistakes. He was better. He was better simply by subtraction, not addition. And what I mean by that is, I don't know that he added anything to give himself better form, although I think that his trainer should get a lot of credit because he looked really better and good and improved. But I think what I took away from it, Bud, was that rather than any new gadgets or any new emphasis on better technique, he just eliminated the mistakes. He was better by subtraction, by just not getting into those chaotic situations where he's leading, where he's reaching in, where, you know, he's going kamikaze, and he's doing work for the other guy, you know, where his reckless aggression is helping the other guy, giving the other guy opportunities to catch him coming in. He just cut down on that. He just looked like he went on a diet. He went on a diet. I mean, and when I use that word diet to describe it, his body was, to me, nobody talked about, was impressive. It was more fit. It was trim. It was defined. I mean, his body looked different to me. Maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe I've been, you know, I haven't gotten out enough, you know. Maybe that's the problem. He just looks more fit. He looks more athletic. And again, the diet description for me is the right description and the right choice of word, because it not only applied to his body, but it applied to he lost some of the recklessness. He just lost some of the junk that got him in trouble. Some of the wide punches, some of the crazy stuff that was awkward and unorthodox and could catch you by surprise too. I'm not saying it couldn't, but he still had enough of, you know, his little bit of different style, but it was just presented so much better so much cleaner, so much more effectively by, again, he went on a diet, whatever he did for his body, but he went on a diet and he threw away, I don't know if he stopped eating certain things, but he definitely stopped throwing certain things, throwing punches from too far away. I was very taken by that. If I was working that show, which I wasn't, that would have been the first thing I would have been talking about with Chael Sonnen and Anthony Smith and all those, Bisping and all those great people that do the UFC that are so good at what they do. I would have been asking them, am I crazy, or was I seeing what I thought I saw? Was a different guy, like I said, a less out of control guy. He looked. Hill had great moments. It was a terrific fight while it lasted. Hill is a dangerous striker, tall, long, wiry. I thought that Hill would have a chance to drop him, to catch him coming in with counter shots, because he's long, he's a good puncher. He would be able to catch him, reckless. But again, Jerry moved his head. He showed me defensive responsibility. I was taken by that. I was surprised by it, and I was very impressed by it. I thought that the striking early, like I said, Jerry didn't rush in. He didn't give those opportunities I thought were going to be there for Hill. Hill, he wound up dropping Hill with a straight left hand, and Jerry, when he caught him with that left hand, the reason I always talk about when people get caught, they get dropped because the other guy has power. Obviously, he delivered the power, but it's also got something to do with a flaw in your own system, in your own defense. And it's hard to point out because it's hard to see sometimes. But that flaw was there again, where really Hill allowed that left hand to get in, because the left of Jerry was thrown from the southpaw position, and he threw it as Hill was leading with his right hook, leaving an opening where you could punch in between. Again, Jerry just moved his head. He looked very athletic. He was mixing in kicks, knees, strikes. There was a couple eye pokes both sides that I obviously wound up being involved in a fight. Just at the end of the day, very impressed by what I saw. A better round for Hill in the second round. He lost the first round. In the second round, he was mixing in good lead strikes off his jab, and he was also throwing nice counters. He was going to the body nice. Hill was. I had it 1-1 after 2. And then the third round obviously was going to decide the fight. And Jerry did not leave it into the hands of the judges. As I said, he landed that clean shot. And he did it. I'll finish with this, to my point. That clean shot that he landed in the third round, it was off a defensive move. I mean, to me, that was the thing that was the most surprising and the most just impressive. That, after that, they slugged it out back and forth. It was a firefight. Then Jerry caught him again and dropped him. He put the left hand and the right hand together. But the main thing is, it was Jerry's defensive move, his head movement, that set up the left hand by making Hill miss and then countering back. I can't say it enough. That defense creates offense. Usually in my business, if it's a close fight to pick, I'll pick the guy with the better defense. And I never in a million years would have thought I'd be sitting here saying that even though he's awkward and he does things and he's awkwardly clever, but I never thought I'd be sitting here saying that Jiri, because of his defense, would win this fight. And at the end of the day, that final strike, again, was brought on by his defense. He slipped, whoop, punch went by, bang. You make him miss, you make him pay.
Yeah, well done by Jiri. I had a 1-1 going into the last round, too. I thought it was a big comeback round in the second for Hill, and I thought those eye pokes, like I said earlier, helped get him a little breather and be able to have a stronger round. But the jitterbug style, I call it, from Jiri, like we saw with the great late Emmanuel Burton, just unbelievable controlling range and distance and then controlled chaos, being able to be effective. I don't know about a diet. I think the thing that also could be different to what you're saying is he cut off his ponytail. And he didn't have the ponytail flying around, and he was more controlled. He did that to honor a friend of his who's going through a fight for her life with cancer. So congratulations to Jiri. And with that being said, we're going to move on to the co-feature of the evening.
Can I say one thing there, since you brought, and I thought it was good you brought that up?
Yeah, of course.
First of all, I think the ponytail was worth £5. All right. All right, that's number one. Number two, I thought it was a beautiful gesture, what you just touched on, Bud, where, he dedicated the fight to a woman fighting cancer. I don't know. Like I said earlier during the opening, that this country, what's beautiful about this country is when people are in dire situations, bad situations, how people you've never seen, you don't even know, you didn't know before, will suddenly reach out to help you, will suddenly, send some kind of form of help and care that you'd never expected. And that's another example of it. Here he is, a fighter, a guy that gets in that cage, brutal business, but he's doing something so tender, so loving, caring, and others do it too. And every time I see it, it just it reminds me of, we should never forget how human these people are. They're gladiators, they're titans, they're warriors, and they're in a brutal combat sport. But then you see the other side, that they show, the human side. And it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see when anybody shows it. So I thought that was great. Just wanted to throw that in.
It was touching, and it's inspiring. And again, congratulations to him, and best of luck to his friend in the bigger fight with her life moving forward. So we'll move on to the co-feature bout. I thought the fight of the night, we had the bantamweight title, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab Dvalishvili. I thought going in, I told you this, I thought it was extremely disrespectful to have Merab Dvalishvili as a 3-1 underdog. The champion coming in, his first defense since beating Sean O'Malley. Just knowing how skilled he is and talented he is. But what a fight. I thought it was the fight of the night. Unbelievable action. I thought Umar won the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. I thought he was slowing down Merab's attack that we're used to seeing, keeping him thinking, keeping him off balance, not allowing him to come forward and pressure. And then adjustments were made. And Merab goes into the gas tank in the 3rd round. He starts coming out, and now he's got Umar going backwards, and he's pushing the pace. He continued to do that more and more in the 4th, in the 5th round. Just relentless, the perfect nickname, right? The Machine. I mean, wow, he doesn't stop. It was unbelievable performance by both guys. I thought a clear victory went to the right guy. Unanimous decision for Merab Dvalishvili. What'd you think of the fight?
Well, I think the nickname is the right nickname, right? Because I saw him after the fight. He was drinking a quart of oil. He wasn't drinking Gatorade. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think some people would believe that statement when they watch how he goes about his business. He is a machine. It's incredible. It did become a battle of attrition. It did. And when I say attrition, not just physical attrition, mental attrition, where he instilled his physicality with pressure, relentless pressure. He wore down this undefeated protege of Khabib. Tremendous fighter is Umar too, but he wore him down. And I think he wore him down as much mentally as he did physically, which is a hell of a thing to say about a protege of Khabib's. But you could also say that with everything with the 18-0 record going in, that maybe he needed one more fight of a sort of seasoning fight, because his last fight was a very important fight, I thought, for him. His last fight, Bud, was with Sandhagen, who's tremendous, just a solid guy, could fit in with anyone. I thought that was a very important fight, and it was a tough fight for Umar, and I thought it was important to have it before this fight. I really did. But if he could have had one more fight like that, or even a little less than that, because Sandhagen is such a tough fight, but I think it would have served him to handle this step up in level and everything that it represented that Merab brings. You got to be ready, not just good, not just technically good, not just all the things he's so good at, which he's well-rounded just like Merab. He's so good. But you got to have that seasoning. You got to have that moment where you just know that you can handle what's going to be coming, that knock at the door from the devil. And you got to have a fight that tells you that. I thought the Sandhagen fight got him closer to that. I thought one more like that might have gotten him a little closer or put him in a better position. But at the end of the day, Merab does what he does, like you touched on, Bud. He brings the heat. He just keeps bringing it. He's Randy Johnson, that pitcher you used to love when he used to throw. He nicknamed that fastball that got a little out of control at 100 miles an hour, and it used to make batters a little nervous. I forget what he called it, but he gave it a
Mr. Nasty, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
but
Mr.
99
Nasty.
miles per hour at your head.
Yeah, 99 or 100 miles per hour. Mr. Nasty, that guy is. That pitch, I call that Mr. Nasty. And the batters, it gave them something else to think about that they didn't want to think about, that could just come towards their head. But he always threw that heat, that 99, 100 mile an hour, 102 mile an hour heat, Randy Johnson, the pitcher. And that's Merab. He's always bringing the heat. And like I've said many times, when you put that pressure on, and that's part of your style, like it is Merab's, and part of your forte, that it's like boiling water on a stove. It takes time for the water to boil. And you can lose the early rounds while the water's boiling. But at the end of the day, you're going to boil that water. At the end of the day, that water's going to be... Your goal to get rid of that water, to boil that water, to evaporate that water, it's going to be done. It's going to be seen. And that's what he does. He evaporates the other guy. And just like when you look in the pot on the stove, after a few minutes and there's less water, there's less of that guy in the cage, in the ring. Depending on what sport we're talking about, when you apply that kind of pressure, and you could see there was less of Umar at the end. I thought he won the early round. The first couple rounds were very close. The first round, I thought he won it. The second round was very close. But then I thought that Merab just started to, again, take control, start to get to the geography he needed in close. And where he could get his hands on, he could get the takedowns. He got the takedowns. They're both tremendous wrestlers, but Merab's even better. The edge that I thought kept the fight so interesting, the edge for Umar was the striking. His hands were a little faster. His counterpunching was really good. He put punches together. He threw more punches. But Umar, as good as he was with the striking, Merab placed nice right hands just at the right time, against the southpaw. And I also always would call the right hands the southpaw killer. They land against lefties. And you could see Merab was well prepared what he had to do. He didn't throw as many, but when he threw them, they were at the right time, the right distance, and they landed. They were well placed. Nothing wasted. Yeah, not as busy with his hands, not as much with the striking, but effective striking at the right time. He mixed it in with the takedowns really nicely. But at the end of the day, I thought going into the fifth round, whoever won the fifth round was going to clearly win the fight. Because of the close rounds, I could have had it 3-1 or 2-2, either 3-1 Merab or 2-2 going into the fifth. But to me, the fifth was going to be the final, the real decider, and there was no question. And it was that Merab won the championship rounds. It reminded me a little bit of Beterbiev, the way Beterbiev breaks guys down with his pressure, with his just relentless coming forward, his attitude, his physical and his mental attitude and pressure, where he wears you down. And he wins the championship rounds, which he did against Bivol in a great fight. I thought that's what Merab did. His pressure won him the championship rounds. And terrific fight, great fight. That Umar's going to only get better, I believe, from this fight. And what makes it even more extraordinary is I was talking to Ray Longo, the great coach, one of the great coaches. He's got two great coaches, Merab does. But I was talking to Ray Longo, who's one of the best coaches in the business. And he may come on our show. We're hoping to have him and Merab on the show. We don't know if it's going to be where it's going to be today or if it's going to be next week. But we're hoping to have him on. And I want to ask him, how does this guy get in this kind of condition? I know it's hard work and all that. But how does he get in this kind of condition? And he was possibly compromised by a leg injury. We saw the pictures that he had an infection. He had a leg injury. I'm not sure exactly when that was. But man, if he was compromised by that leg, and he implied he was after the fight, that he may have been a little bit, off because of the leg injury. If that's off, I hate to see when he's on. I mean, if that leg injury took away from his conditioning, I would be scared to see what he looks like when he's in 100% conditioning.
And I would want to hear the answer to that question as well. Merab, like you said, he touched on it after the fight. He also said he might have had a little back injury, but he had a leg infection. You could see the cut. He was probably on antibiotics that can sap your cardio and your stamina from you. And I couldn't tell. So I would just say he's different. And no matter what he's facing, as you would say, this guy's been forged in the fire, and he's going to find a way, and that's what he did.
When you say he's different, I'm gonna come back with a question. I mean, we can't answer it, but it's just a question that, to me, right away, when you say that, there are people that are born different, that just have an ability that they're able to oxygenate better, that they're able, of course, I'm not going to say it in the exact scientific medical terms that it needs to be said, but there are people that just have an edge in endurance naturally, genetically. I mean, of course, they work hard. That's the main thing. And their conditioning program is the main thing, and their diet and everything else. But there are people that are biologically just different, that they have the ability to just oxygenate, I don't know if I'm making up a new word, but be able to take in the oxygen and just get it to the body and you know, at a different degree, at a higher degree than average people, that it gives them an edge with just their endurance, where, you know, when they take in their breaths, they're able to store oxygen better and use it in a way that the average person can't, even if they're conditioned to the ultimate. So it gives them a slight edge. I'd love to go down that road with them and just know, is that part of it, or is it purely the training regimen? And what is that training regimen? Now, having said that, I have to mention that Umar, his people did say that he broke his hand. Now, I don't know if we've gotten any proof of that. We'll take them. I believe when they said it, they believed it. They showed a picture of it that did look a little, you know, raggedy, a little disformity there, but that doesn't prove that the hand's broken. The only thing, I've been in the fight business too long. I know that the only thing that proves a broken hand is an x-ray that shows a broken bone. Because a lot of times it could be a severe bruise, it could be a sprain, and it feels like it's broke. You know, and it's swollen, it looks like it could be broke. But until you get an x-ray, you don't know. You just don't know. So I don't know if there's been any confirmation, Bud, in that area, if he indeed did fight with a broken hand. But at the end of the day, I didn't see... Look, these guys are warriors. These guys, they fight through pain. Like, it would be abnormal to go into a fight without an injury. Now, supposedly, if he heard it during the fight, in the first round. But again, it would be hard to get through a fight in our business, in the UFC or in the boxing business, without something being, because you're in a contact business. You're in a pain business. That's part of the deal, to deal with that pain, to overcome. But I didn't see anything that showed me him restricted from his striking. Although I will say that I was watching Umar, and when he was throwing the punches, that's the one thing that I thought he had the little edge, where he was coming back with quick counters, nice combinations, even though I thought Merab was holding his own, controlling range, placing his punches. But Umar was putting together punches. I thought he showed the faster hands, but he wasn't really throwing with a lot of, maybe I'd say sitting down with power on his shots. It was just like he was throwing them just to get them off real quick. I'm wondering, is part of that could have been possibly that because one of his hands was injured, so he didn't want to place power in it. He just wanted to, to get it off quick. So I don't know.
I didn't notice anything during watching the fight. The pictures I've seen have not been x-rays, but the hand does look jacked up. But as you would say, he has another hand. He has 2 feet. He's got 2 elbows. They're all dealing with something. You're in there. You have to find a way. And Merab was dealing with something too going in, and he was able to find a way. The last thing I'll say is I'm glad you touched on the mental side, because I was thinking about what you always said watching it. he did feel like that puddle on a hot summer day, and he was evaporating. And although I had it 2-2 going into the final round, I said, man, I'd rather be in Merab's corner. I'd rather be Merab right now than to be Umar. And Khabib, the great legend Khabib, he felt it. He touched on it. He said, hey, this is all mental now. But how do you deal with that when not only you're dealing with Merab and the pace and that he won't stop, as you're getting tired, he's getting stronger. He's showboating. He's having conversations with Dana White. He's just having a blast, like a walk in the park. I mean, that's got to also be demoralizing mentally for Umar to have to deal with while he's feeling and dealing with the mental and physical stuff that we've just touched on.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think he chose to do that for a specific reason, not just to show off. That's not his temperament. That's not his style. I think that he did that for, there was an ends towards those means. There was a means towards those ends. There was a method to that madness, if you will. I thought it was to kind of show mentally, to dig a little bit deeper into Umar and to show that, hey, I'm going right through you. You can't stop. I'm not even tired. I think it was to emphasize, to put an when we want to put something strong on paper, we put an exclamation point at the end of the sentence. That was his exclamation point at the end of his sentence, where he is just driving home. And I'm so glad you brought that up. He's just driving home that, hey, you can't do nothing with me. I'm partying here. I'm having fun here. I haven't even got my second wind yet. I haven't even broken a wind yet. And look how you're feeling. So I think that might have been part of it. And I do think that also maybe part of it was to send a message to the judges, because they going in, it was incredible, I thought, that they had Umar not just a favorite, but the kind of favorite, like
massive.
Over 2-1. That was
almost
just
4-1.
2-1. That was mind-boggling.
4-1.
How 4-1? I think you had to lay 2.5, right?
You were getting back plus 300.
No, I mean you get back
Merab.
2.5. Is that what you were getting? Yeah. So I mean that's just incredible that you had those kind of odds, and with a guy who was the champion, a guy who had already beaten 4 former UFC champions. He had the better resume. He'd been in there with the more experienced guys, and then I know this guy is a protege of Khabib. He's tremendous talent, the region, the world that he comes from, all of that, and how good they are, all of that, and he's undefeated, but to have that line be what it was, I wonder. I'd love to ask Ray and Merab himself, how much did that motivate him? How much did he feel when he saw that? He said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to show them."
He did feed off of that, and he's a guy that's gonna, you could tell, take everything he could get in all the bulletin board info, and he's gonna use that to fuel him. And besides that, his pride and his extra power for his country of Georgia. It reminds me of Manny Pacquiao. You could really see that like Manny would for the Philippines, this man uses that for his extra fuel and his extra power when he needs it inside of that octagon.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I wonder if part of that showboating, if you will, and it was showboating, was directed also towards the judges. Like, again, just to kind of drive home that, hey, you better not be thinking about not giving me this fight, because look what I'm doing. I'm ragdolling him. I'm ragdolling the guy. I'm pushing him around, playing with the guy. Yeah, if you're thinking about maybe not giving this round to me, think twice, because it's gonna be egg on your face. It's gonna be egg on your face, because I'm making sure I'm putting the egg on your face right now. That I would be able to push the guy around like this, and then you're going to give him the round? So I'm wondering if he was protecting himself a little bit. If he was backing himself up a little bit with that, because these guys are smart. They're not just tough. They're smart. They're brilliant. They're geniuses in what they do. But anyway, at the end of the day, it's fun watching boiling water. I never thought watching boiling water would be, it would be such a sport, such an event, such an attraction, such a happening. It really is. It's something else. You're watching the boiling of a human being. The boiling of a human being just boiled down. And you say, wow, that guy's not, he's not what he was when the first bell rang. Look at him. And anyway, terrific fight. You know that Umar, I don't think I'd be stretching him much to say he's going to be a champion, because I think that's in his future. He will be a champion with the people that he's got around him and his talent. He will be a champion. But like they said in The Gladiator, the guy who I love at the end, when he was talking to Russell Crowe, and he says, "You're going to be with your family in the afterlife. Do you believe in that?" And he goes, "Yes." He goes, "You'll be with them?" He goes, "Yes, but not yet. Not yet. Not yet." Rob, see if you can get my man Rob. See if you can get that up, and Sam and everybody. If you could get a clip of that up from The Gladiator, I love it. So that means that our fans love it. Whether I have to believe that. I have to believe that. My fans love it too. So great fight.
Yeah, congrats to Merab. And I look forward to seeing Umar return. Sign me up for the rematch. I'd love to see that. But before we move on to the main event, that was a nice, thorough breakdown. That fight deserved it. I just want to say a quick shout out and a thank you, where we'll give a pause to today's sponsor, Athletic Greens, the all-in-one daily drink to support better health and peak performance. As everybody knows, they've been a sponsor of the podcast since day one because they know it's the best supplement for our overall health. These guys have spent 10 years with top nutritionists and doctors to create this formula. It's made from 75 whole food sourced ingredients, has vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, and antioxidants. This is like an insurance policy for your body's health and immunity. Athletic Greens is giving our listeners 10 free travel packs for free. So whether you're looking to boost your energy levels, support your immune system, or address your gut health, Athletic Greens is the way to go. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/atlas to claim the special offer. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go into the main event. It was supposed to be Islam Makhachev fighting against Arman Tzarukyan. And due to the circumstances, or as Arman said, a last-minute injury, he was forced to withdraw. Renato Moicano was on the card, supposed to fight Benel Dariush, and instead gets the opportunity and agrees and steps up on not even a day's notice, to face the champion, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Islam Makhachev. Tough to fight Makhachev, period, let alone on one night's sleep. Moicano might have had one flash of a chance there. I don't know if the punch landed clean and he hurt Makhachev, or Makhachev was just off balance and went to the ground. But if anything, it seemed like it just pissed Makhachev off and made him realize, hey, let me just do what I do, get my hands on this guy, get him to the ground, and get the heck out of here with a win. Makhachev, that's what he did, right? He got him to the ground, worked his position, and before you knew it, Moicano was tapping. So another impressive win. Makhachev moves to 27-1, his fourth defense now, the lightweight title. Remains, like I said, the number one UFC pound-for-pound fighter. What did you think of Islam's performance?
I think that punch woke him up. I think that's a good point you just made. I do. I think sometimes fighters get woken up by a punch that normally might put someone to sleep. I think it wakes them up, kind of like orange juice in the morning, or a cup of coffee in the morning. Sam's laughing, Richie's laughing. I think it wakes him up. I think he was very stoic, Makhachev. There's a few with great stares in UFC. He's one of them. He's just cold, no emotion, very stoic, like I said. It reminded me of another movie clip. I know you guys love this, so I'm just going to keep it coming. Going to keep it coming because they love it. Our fans love it. They love it. I love it. It reminded me of the movie The Equalizer with Denzel Washington, when he's sitting in there with that Russian guy, the killer, and he says to the Russian guy, "What do you see when you look in my eyes?" Nothing. That's scary. I got Sam melting over here because I'm staring at him. He's ready. I got to give him smelling salts over here. And that he was so stoic. I think in some ways that the punch did wake him up. I think it might have dropped him. It was a nice counter shot. It was a right hand that came back with a left hook. He didn't really turn the left hook over fully, but he caught him, it looked like, on the chin. It looked like he dropped. They didn't really make much of it, the commentators, so I don't know. They didn't show a lot of replays on it, to be honest. But I thought that in the first round that he did drop him. Either way, it might have been the worst thing that ever happened for Moicano, because if it did wake him up, man, it was hell to pay once he woke up. And because then Islam just did what he does. He's beaten so many. He's a monster. He's beaten so many great fighters already. And he's so big. He's so strong. I don't know sometimes how he makes the weight cut or how some of these guys make the weight cut. I think of big, strong guys. I think of Duplessis, how big and strong he is, and how does he make the weight cut. That's part of their... Listen, part of what makes Makhachev so special is his technique, his attitude, his mentality, all of that. And his strength, too. But the way he uses his strength. Yeah, he's strong. Yeah, he's big. He gets on the floor. And, man, he's playing chess. He's playing chess on the floor. And this one was dominant. It was dominant. He got the takedown. He went for it. He got it. He got on top. He got in control. Moicano was defending. And then suddenly Makhachev got the choke, and it was over, and again, he looks, when he's so dominant, when he does this stuff, he looks like, I'm going to go into the wildlife here, but he looks like an undersea creature, like an octopus, when it wraps its tentacles around its prey, and it just squeezes the life out of it. And once it wraps its tentacles around it, it's over. You don't have to wait to the final result and see. No, it's over. There ain't no coming out of that. And that's pretty much what it's been, and what it was. If you want another wildlife analogy, which I see Sam's saying yes, we want another one. If you want another wildlife analogy, it would be kind of like, I'll go from the sea to the land. It would be like maybe a scorpion or a snake bites something, and the venom, once the venom gets in there, the prey becomes paralyzed. That's what it looks like. Like Moicano just became paralyzed. And I don't know if part of that paralysis is from the hold. I know it is, but it's from the physical hold that he's got him in. And part of it is almost like the prey is succumbing. It's like you're succumbing to what is going to happen, to what you just know you have no control over. It's like a submission, like you succumb, like you get bit and you just know it's over. It almost has that look, like, it just knows that there's nothing you can do now.
I know what you're saying. I feel the same way watching it, like a quarterback that's been rattled in football and he's shell-shocked and the pressure's coming He's putting his head down. He's in the fetal position before the defender even gets him. He is succumbing to the sack at times, and I agree with you. It did feel that way. To me, it felt like once Makhachev was pissed off, it was a mouse getting thrown into the snake's cage. You knew how this was ending.
Yeah. Well, I hate to be a mouse in a snake's cage, so I'll stop with that because that's rough.
Well,
that's
I think that was a pretty thorough breakdown of UFC 311. And before we call it a day, we're going to switch over and we're going to transition to some boxing talk. We do have a big fight coming up on Friday, January 24th from Japan. One of the top pound-for-pound boxers in the business, the monster, Mr. Inoue. He had a fight fall through against Goodman. Was postponed for 1 month. Falls through again due to injury, a cut that Sam Goodman had. And he has a new opponent stepping in on less than 2 weeks' notice, and that is Yi Jun Kim. Now, I am not familiar at all with Yi Jun Kim. I know you are, so I just wanted to see if you could just give us a quick touch, what to expect from Kim, and a quick preview of what to expect with that matchup with Inoue.
Yeah, Kim's experienced enough. He's talented enough. He's awkward enough. He's awkwardly clever. He'll move, then he'll stop. He's not the easiest style to deal with. He'll move on you, stop, pow, 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 and then move a little bit, and then you're coming after him, then he'll stop and catch you by surprise. He'll make a stand with you. He'll put punches together. He's got a little pop in his punches. He's got ability. He's got heart. He's shown that. He's a guy that, he's been in real fights. He's a live opponent. His one problem is that he will stay and fight with you here. He's at his best when he'll get off and then he'll move, and then as you come after him, he'll look to surprise attack you as you come after him. He will stay there, which is sometimes a beat too long. And not even a beat too long. Just he'll be a fighter. He'll stay with you and he'll try to get the job finished. And I think that attitude was a great attitude, but that might get him finished with Inoue, because Inoue doesn't waste anything. He's a good puncher. He's an accurate puncher. He throws them to the right places. He's a great body puncher besides being great to the head. He's got that supreme confidence that Customato used to tell me he only saw 2 fighters that he knew had it, Sugar Ray Robinson and Muhammad Ali, 2 great fighters, that they really believed that you just couldn't beat them. And I think Inoue has that. You just believe no matter what, you could drop him, you could do that. You're not beating him. And he's bringing that attitude with that talent. At the end of the day, I think that it'll be interesting while it lasts. I think this Kim will represent himself well, but at the end of the day, I think Inoue will get it done, and I think he'll have a chance to do what nobody's done with Kim so far. He's got 2 losses, but he's never been stopped. I think he'll be able to have a shot to stop him.
Yeah, I look forward to watching that. That's going to be, again, on the 24th, which will then lead us to our next fight the following day on the 25th, Saturday night. 2 unbeatens, 168-pounders. The young Diego Pacheco facing a little bit older prospect, but still undefeated, Steven Nelson. Why don't you give us a quick little preview on that fight for Saturday night?
Listen, Pacheco, I love Pacheco. He's young, he's undefeated. He stepped him up a little bit in his competition. He's a good body puncher. He's a good puncher. He throws clean combinations. He puts them together well. When I say clean, a good technique. He's accurate with his punches. He knows how to fight tall. He's got that God-given asset of long arms and good height. He knows how to use it. He unlike Fundora, who didn't know how to use his height. Although he did much better in the Zub fight. The blood came into play too. But he did better in the Zub fight. He won the title, and he's got a lot of heart, Fundora. But he never showed the ability to use those physical assets the way you should on the outside. Pacheco knows how to fight. He knows how to fight tall. He understands his identity. That his identity needs to be to take advantage of those physical attributes, to stand on the outside, control the outside. He can fight inside too, but he knows for the most part, the way he's going to make it is to try to continually make it his fight, and his fight is on the outside. So Nelson's going to have, at some point, the problem of trying to get in on Pacheco without taking on too much damage on the way in. I like Nelson. He's technically solid. He knows how to fight. He's a solid fighter. Sometimes he stands a little too straight. That could be a problem. That could be a little problem. But I also see him move his head. He's defensively able, defensively responsible, defensively equipped. He's a good counterpuncher. Matter of fact, I think his instinct is more to counter. He knows how to lead. He'll come in, bring his feet, come in behind the jab. He goes to the body well. He's a good fighter. But I think his instinct is more to counter. Maybe he can get Pacheco to come in a little bit, to give up some of his height where he can counter. That would be his best shot. But at the end of the day, I like Pacheco. He hasn't learned how to, both of them have not learned how to lose yet, but Pacheco's young. He's only getting better. I like him at the end of the day, but again, Nelson is nobody to just sleep on. He's a guy that he knows, he knows how to fight. And he's not just a walking guy where you can have batting practice on him. He's not that guy at all. So I'm taking Pacheco. There's one thing that I give Pacheco a chance to score a knockout one place, and that is where Nelson, he's got a habit, and he does a lot of things well, but I saw a tendency in one clip where he'll slip to his right and drop his left hand. And that's a no-no. That's a big no-no. For me, it's a huge no-no, because when you do that, you leave yourself in the alleyway of the right hand. You slip to the right, you got your left down, the right hand's right there. It's right there. You got to slip up and finish on your left, outside the right hand. And if he does that, there's a chance that Pacheco can land his Sunday punch, which is the right hand. And the reason I bring it up and say it's so important is we have witnessed recently what happens when somebody makes that defensive mistake and slips to their right with their left hand down. You know who that somebody was recently, Bud?
Who was that?
Munguia. Munguia a couple weeks ago did that same thing. He slipped to his left to his right, with his left hand down. And one of the biggest upsets you're ever going to see.
That's right, versus Bruno Saras.
Yeah, Bruno Saras from France, first time ever fighting outside of France, and with only 4 knockouts, landed a clean, timed, beautiful right hand and knocked out Munguia to pull off, again, one of the biggest upsets you're ever going to see. So that's the one little possible fly in the ointment for Nelson, but otherwise, Nelson, I think will do himself justice, will do himself proud, and make it a fight.
Well, it's a great breakdown. I look forward to watching that fight this weekend. And with that being said, now that we previewed the upcoming fights, I want to ask you about some potential future super fights. It seems like every time I refresh my phone, there's something new, and it's breaking, and it's big. And it's almost like Christmas every day for boxing fans these days. The fights that we've dreamt of are starting to come together. And one of the big ones I'm going to ask you about is the potential of Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia's rematch, part 2. But before that, they're both going to have to, I wouldn't call these guys tune-ups. They're going to have to take care of some business in order for us to see that. It sounds like Devin Haney will first face off versus Jose Ramirez, and then Ryan Garcia will be facing off against Isaac Pitbull Cruz. If both victorious, We would then see them to open up Riyadh season in October and finally get the rematch. Do you think those are dangerous fights? And if they both get through it, what do you think leading into the rematch for Garcia-Haney too?
Well, first of all, your phone is blowing up and you keep getting excited and you're getting all these stuff that's good for boxing that's coming. And it's coming from the same place, coming from the Middle East. You know, it's coming from a place that we never used to think about fights coming from, you know, where we thought about oil. We thought about a lot of sand and stuff, but we never thought about fights. And now because of Turki Al-Sheikh, who I do believe is the face of boxing now, how could you argue that? We're getting fights. We're rejuvenating a sport that needed some rejuvenating because the fans were not getting the fights they wanted, quite frankly. So I think both these possible fights are very interesting. I think, and look, they're supposed to be tune-up fights. They're better than tune-up fights. They're supposed to be comeback fights. They're good comeback fights. You know, you know, Garcia's been suspended, so it's a comeback. Gives him a fight back before possibly rematching with Haney. And Haney, of course, lost the fight to Garcia. Took a lot of punishment. It's a comeback fight for him, but not the traditional comeback, because you don't get the traditional comeback fights from Saudi Arabia, from Turki Al-Sheikh. You don't get that. You get competitive fights, even when they are supposed to fit into the traditional comeback fight for one guy to have a little easier touch. It's becoming a little bit like Dana White's UFC, where there are no easy touches, where, you know, the formula is simple: competitive fights. Come on, you want to fight? Competitive fights. So, yeah, you would favor Garcia, you would favor Haney in these fights, but you don't know. You don't know what Haney is. You don't know how much damage psychologically and physically was done in that fight against Garcia, who was so much bigger for him than him, you know, and that he took a lot of punishment. And then, of course, there was all the controversy about, you know, Garcia, if he was dirty and everything else. Look, Haney went through hell in that fight. Yeah, you could argue he fought the wrong fight, and I think he did, by thinking he was going to go right through Garcia with all the stuff that was going on pre-fight, with the craziness with Garcia, that he's not in the right frame of mind, that I think they went away, him and his father, who do a great job. His father does a great job, but I think that they went away from his ID. His ID was always a box, set traps, counterpunch, not seek and destroy. They went and seek and destroyed against Garcia, a bigger guy, thinking that that was the right thing to do in that particular night because of the mental frame that Garcia was in. And it didn't turn out to be the right way to fight. Again, Haney went away from the way he normally fights, from what his ID is. Ramirez has been around. Ramirez, you know, how much does he have left? You know, he might be a little bit shop one, not you know, but still, he's a former champion. He's a guy that is a warrior. He's a guy that's busy enough. He's coming off a loss, of course, to Barbosa, where he got outboxed on the. That's what's interesting. He got outboxed by Ramirez's thing is to get inside, get in the kitchen, and cook something up for the most part. Go to the body, get in close to you, and Barbosa didn't let him do that. He outboxed him. Haney's thing, again, he didn't show it in the Garcia fight, but his thing is to box. So can he do what Barbosa did? I think that his father and them are probably looking at that and say, hey, you box him the way Barbosa did, the way Haney's supposed to box, on the outside, and you'll be able to handle this fight. It's an interesting fight. It's no gimme. It's a good fight. Cruz and Garcia, maybe Cruz is a little too small for Garcia. I don't know, but he's a pit bull. I want to see. You tell me Cruz is fighting, I'm in. I'm watching because his style, his attitude, he's bringing it. He's coming. You got to beat him. He ain't giving you nothing. He's that old saying, he ain't giving ice away in the winter. You know what I mean? He ain't giving you diddly squat, all right? And he's coming. He's looking to get inside. He's looking to tornado you. He's looking to go to the body. He's looking to break you down. And what's the one thing we were worried about with Garcia? Mental. Whether or not he mentally could handle pressure, whether or not he mentally, he handled in the Haney fight, but whether or not mentally he could handle somebody coming to take his soul. You know, whether or not, we're going to get another look at that. We're going to get another peek at that. So I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. Can Garcia catch him? Garcia's a good puncher, especially with that left hand. Can he catch him coming in? That's what you like to do with Cruz. Try to catch him, keep him on the outside with your jab, catch him coming in. Can Garcia do that? Can he hurt him? Or can Cruz break him down mentally and physically? Good fights.
Yeah, I think the Oscar Duarte fight maybe helped serve Garcia to get accustomed to this style of pressure fighter coming forward, but we'll see.
It's a good point.
You like to talk about movie references. Remember the infomercials with Billy Mays? But wait, there's more. Yeah. There's more. And if I can, I'm going to touch on it. How about throw in Boots Ennis and Teofimo Lopez in a tournament where the winner fights Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and the losers would face off on the same card. And that's, again, assuming that Boots takes care of business, as does Teofimo Lopez, where they might have potential unification bouts, not tune-ups, but unification fights in order to get to that place.
Yeah, I mean, it's all great stuff. It's all great stuff. It's all potentially great. Here's the best thing. We used to always hear about all that, and it never happens. With Turkey LSG, it happens. It actually happens. You talk about, oh, yeah, that would be great, but, you know, whatever. Oh, no, not whatever. It winds up happening. So if that fight with Ennis and Teo, I never thought of that fight. I can be honest. That never crossed my mind. Because at first I would think Ennis is too big for Teo. You know, he's fought at a heavier weight class throughout his whole career. And Ennis is a huge welterweight on top. But Teo's thick. Teo is big too. Teo is a guy that can fill in, and Teo is very talented. You know, I don't know if you always wonder if you've seen the best of him. You know, you saw him against the great Lomachenko when he came out and really made his bones, where, you know, that was his coming out party where he won the title, and then you thought he was going to just stay there, and then all of a sudden he loses, you know.
Kambosos.
Was that?
To George Kambosos in the next
fight. Yeah, he
fight.
loses to Kambosos from Australia, you know, right away. And then you see hot and cold with Teo. You know, the truth is the truth. You see, he's very talented. When he's at his best, you think there's nobody he can't win with. But then you wonder who's going to be there that night, who's going to show up that night, mentally and physically and technically. So he's been hot and cold. And as you know, there's people questioning him. We all were kind of people got on me and saying that I built him up too high. I'm too complimentary towards him. Listen, I see a guy who's not only big and strong, but a guy who's technically real buttoned up. He's really good. There's nothing he can't do. He can fight on the outside. He can fight on the inside. But you could make an argument that he's disappointed in some areas, and I don't know where he disappointed. People say, "Oh, I was a little disappointed." You know, I thought he was the next coming. Yeah, because everyone was talking like that. We're going to see him with Crawford. Crawford don't want to fight him. He moved up. He moved out. I think that's ridiculous. It didn't make sense for Crawford to fight him because the fight wasn't big enough yet. And it's a dangerous fight, but it wasn't big enough. Crawford, you know, had earned the right to fight bigger fights. But a lot of people, they just said, oh, this guy is, you know, again, and I said it too. It looks like the next coming. He's gonna, especially with Crawford gone, he's gonna dominate the welters, and he has beaten everyone in the welters, but he hasn't done it the way that some people wanted him to do it. When you give that guy that kind of credit, when you give that guy that kind of, you know, compliments. You want to see it. You don't want to see him just win. You want to see him win spectacularly. Usually it's enough just to win. But with a guy like that gets all those accolades, and everybody talking about him the way that they were talking about Ennis and the way I was talking about him, and still talk about him, good isn't enough. You want to see you want to see something spectacular, and you haven't really seen that. So in his last couple of fights, so I think that it's a really interesting fight. Tio could present, if that fight ever happened, a challenge that you would have to see that spectacular Ennis. And if you don't, Tio could upset the apple cart. Tio could easily, with his talent, could all of a sudden do something that a while ago I wouldn't have thought he would be big enough to do, to be honest. I wouldn't have. But then again, what Tio are you getting? Are you going to get the Tio that that looked the way he did with Lomachenko, although Loma did come on late in that fight, but looked like he did with Lomachenko and looked like he did with Josh Taylor? Or you're going to get the one that didn't look too good in a few of the other fights that some people would argue that he might not have even won? So it's an interesting fight.
Yeah, he struggled against Jermaine Ortiz. He struggled against Sandor Martin. Obviously, the loss versus Camboso. So I think you summed it up perfectly. That was a great breakdown. I hope the fans enjoy that and hope we get these fights. The last one I want to throw at you for our fans across the pond that isn't rumored, that has been finalized and announced, is Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. And growing up here, obviously in the States, I don't really know and understand the history of the fathers. It's been 35 years now since they fought in the rematch. But if you just want to touch on how important this is to the fans over there in the UK, and what do you think of the stylistic matchup of the smaller Benn taking on the older Eubank?
Yeah, look, Benn is younger and smaller, no doubt. Eubank's older and bigger, and he's fought at a bigger weight. But look, it all comes down to their fathers. Their fathers were mega stars over there. Just mega stars. And you get mega stars in London because the fans are so great, and you don't have the things that I always talk about over here, You don't have the Tiger Woods and LeBron James and Tom Brady's, I know they're retired recently, but you get what I'm saying. You don't have the football, the basketball, the baseball, you don't have all that competition. You have snooker, you have darts, and,
Well, they do have football, soccer.
You have football. The football they call football over there, soccer. You got golf. Sometimes they still wear those knickers and the dress. That's a dress, but you know what I mean. And listen, the fans know I love them. You know I love you. Take down that dartboard with my picture on it right now as you're having your Guinness. Take it down. Take it down. Come on. Don't be putting a dart in my nose. Don't! Come on! You love me. I know you do. I love you. But, yeah, these guys are stars. Their fathers were stars. So this is for the fans that remember their fathers and want to pick up where they left off, where, they want to see who's better between the sons. And they talk it up. They know how to promote over there. The two fighters talk it up, different personalities. They got at it. They've been building this up for a couple of years now, or at least a year. So, yeah, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. The fans can't wait. But as far as styles, Eubanks is more of a boxer, counter-puncher. Benn's more aggressive. Benn's a guy who brings it to you a little bit more. I think he's a solid fighter. He's a dynamic fighter. He puts pressure on. He goes to the body. He He knows, he's solid technically as well as being aggressive. Sometimes guys are aggressive; they give up a little something in certain areas technically. But Benn is pretty buttoned up, solid guy. Eubank again, I would think he'd want to be on the outside. He'd want to try to use his quick hands and counterpunching abilities and instincts to try to keep Benn on the outside, catch him coming in, and tie him up. I think it's going to be up to Benn to develop a fight plan, him and his people, where they put the pressure on, they go to the body, they apply pressure, they use feints to get in without getting caught with counters, Fake the coming, knock on the front door, come in the side door, don't get caught on the way in. But when you do get in, make sure you don't get tied up. I think that would be the key for me if I was the trainer, that you get in with Eubank, don't let him tie you up, because he wants to win on the outside and then nullify you on the inside, tie you up and then get back on the outside. That's where his bread is buttered. So if I'm Benn, I want to make sure I'm working on, we're not getting tied up. We're taking a little step back. We're shoving them off with our shoulder, bump and run, little things, but we're not getting tied up. We're not allowing him to take away our inside game. It's an interesting fight. And again, the fanfare for it will be through the roof.
It's another fight I'm looking forward to. And with that being said, bud, we had a great breakdown today, the UFC 311. Touch on a lot of upcoming fights, future fights, as well as this weekend's fights. So if you got anything else before we sign off today?
No, just my thank you to the fans. As always, when I don't say it, it doesn't mean I'm not thinking it. It doesn't mean I'm not wishing it. Thank you, guys. And make my son right. Make my son right. Because if you don't, I'm not going to do this no more. I'm going to give you time. It's not a threat. I love yous. But make him right, because he said we're going to get to 1 million viewers. And you know what? If you guys like us, if you really do, and I know that a lot of you do, we got over 314,000 subscribers. But if you really do, pass the word to your friend. Work at it. Become a soldier. Become a soldier in our little army here, and pass it out and help us get more subscribers. Because I'm putting pressure on my son. Because if he doesn't get it done, I'm retiring. I don't want to retire yet. I don't know. But it's all up to you guys. And that guy right there, the guy who's got my same name, but he looks better than me. A lot better. Thank God.
Remember to like, to comment, even the bad comments. Send them all, and make sure you guys subscribe.
The bad, I don't know. See, my son is much better than me when it comes to that stuff. But I don't read it anyway. So I'm safe. But listen, I appreciate all of you. And again, our prayers out there to all the people in California dealing with those fires.
We'll see you guys next week. Thank you. All right, everybody, we have a special guest to welcome to the show. Straight off of UFC 311, defending the bantamweight title, the great trainer of many UFC champions, Coach Ray Longo. Coach, congratulations. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us.
No, anytime, Teddy Jr. I love your father. I would do anything for him. I think he demonstrates what a good human being is, and anything I could do for you guys, I'm all in.
Well, you're a good human being, Ray, and thank you. Thank you for not only representing yourself in the cage and in your sport as a great coach, but as the person that you do in both in the gym and outside the gym. And your fighters seem to mirror that, because I know Marab, the latest champion, who we're going to talk about right here, his fight Saturday, which was incredible. I know he's a great human being. I often talk about the strength of a champion. It's not just the physical attributes and the technical, know-how, but it's what's inside. That their strength is really emanates from the person they are. That when you have to overcome something, do you have that character? Do you have that core of being? And it seems like your guys have that. Like I know from you firsthand that you talked about it with me before that Merab is that kind of human being. I mean, forget about that he's a tremendous fighter, but that he's also a tremendous person. And I really believe that there's a strength to that. That when you're in that spot, when you're in that, octagon in your case, and you have to dig down, you have to find something besides the physical endurance, but something more than that. I think when you have that kind of character, that kind of care for other people, that kind of strength, I think at the end of the day, it comes true. And I believe that you emanate that. I believe that it's not an accident that you're around fighters that aren't only great fighters, but are great people.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I try to lead by example with that. Try to always do the right thing so that these guys could see how to, how to conduct themselves. But, like, again, I was telling your son, I learned more from Merab than he can learn from me. But even if you go back to my old interviews, it was always about, conducting yourself as a champion. You get a platform. That's why it really bothers me when guys get the platform and they do stupid things. I think it's such a shitty example, and that this is something to be valued. And I think, like, I guarantee you, like, I know Merab will hold that in the highest regard, and he'll always do the right thing. He's a little hot-headed. People bug him, but he's a man, and he likes to stick up for what he does. So I think he's, he gets bothered by some of the people. I mean, look what happened to him last time after the last fight. Somebody reaches out to grab him from the stands and say stupid shit to him. So he does a good job with that. I think he struggles with that end of it. But on the overall, you're not going to beat me to find a guy in this. He's just, I was telling, your son, we're leaving the arena. It's late. Everybody wants to get back. Everything's closing up. And we're getting out of the parking lot, and he sees people, with the Georgian flag. He makes that limo driver stop. He gets out. He took a picture with every last one of them. And there was a lot of people there. So it was another 20 minutes to a half hour. But he's not going to pass up that opportunity. I don't know how many guys will do that. A lot of guys will slink down in the chair so you don't see them, so they can get out of there. Not this guy, man. It's just it's something really special to see, and I love it.
This is part of what I like to bring out in an interview is for the curtain to be pulled back and for people to know a little bit about the person. Not just a fighter, not just the athlete, but for people to learn that these guys are human beings. I mean, sometimes you forget that for a minute. That these guys are so tough and they do something that very, very few people could do, that they lose some of the humanness to people. They start to think, well, these guys are just animals. These guys are just rough guys. These guys, they're different. They don't get, no, actually they're the same. They got feelings. You could hurt them. They care about things. They got emotions. They got doubts. They got fears. And they got good and bad. And I love the opportunity, again, to kind of pull the curtain back and let people hear from someone close to them about what they don't see. They see the fighter, but they don't see the person. And to be able to that point, I mean, Merab, I know that when he won the UFC title, I know the Georgian government, where he comes from, gave him a award of $1 million, whatever you call those things in Georgian. I don't know what they're called. $1 million Georgians, whatever.
It might be ruples, but I'm not sure.
What? I don't think it's ruples.
We could go. But Teddy, for me and you, it could be $1 million guacamoles. It's the same thing.
$1 million guacamoles with the sour cream. And when they did give him, it was a lot of money. And when they did give it to him, what did he do? He donated it back so that they could open up grappling schools in that area.
Yeah, he's not money is not his god. I could tell you that. He's very generous. When he comes back to Long Island next week, I'm sure he's going to take everybody out like he always does. But he goes back. There's guys that when I met through him when he first came to the gym that he never forgot. He keeps everybody there. And he's just a special guy, man. Special guy. He's driven by passion, not by fame and money.
Well, again, congratulations on a great win with Merab over Umar. And see how smart I am? I'm staying away from the last names. I'm not dumb. I'm staying away from the last names. I'm not as dumb as I look. So the first question, Ray, did Merab suffer an injury to his leg before the fight? And, how is his conditioning so superior to everyone else's, especially if he had been compromised by an injury?
Well, I'll tell you first off, there's a couple of things there. The thing on his shin was brutal, literally infected. This was about 5 weeks ago. I was in Vegas. I saw it. I go, Merab, they'll never let you fight with that. He's telling me that was the first. What I looked at, and I'll send you the picture of it. He's telling me, no, that's the first day he felt good. He could kick with it. I'm like, there's no way you're kicking with this, Teddy. The thing was. I can't even explain to you. He could have lost his leg. That's my opinion. And I've seen it happen before.
We're going to get a picture. We're going to get a picture from you. We're going to put it up. But go ahead. 100%. You continue.
Yeah. And I heard the picture because I did it on the podcast today. Anik told me that picture wasn't even the worst because I saw it after the fact and it was horrible 5 weeks ago. Horrible. And then they tried to stitch it up. That didn't work, and then thing got infected. So, whatever. He's gonna listen mentally. He's gonna blow through that. But here's the deal. Anybody that knows Merab from years ago, Teddy, always was the last guy in the room. You hear all those cliches, but he'd be on the treadmill an extra hour. I mean, he would spar Aljo when Aljo was fighting, and he'd do 3 rounds before Aljo even got in there with him. And I remember Aljo going to me one day. Man, is he fucking with me right now? Like, this guy's doing 3 rounds. Aljo could have been the champ at the time. He's like, this is crazy. There's guys in the gym that, if they haven't trained for a couple of weeks, hey, I got a round in me, maybe 2. I'll try to. I never heard Merab say that. He goes in there. He enjoys it so much, and he works so hard at it that it's not a problem for him. Listen, Teddy, when you got naturally good cardio and you're working at it and you enjoy what you do and you're not stressed out, you have superhuman cardio. That's what you see with him. It's almost, remember Foreman back in the day? He was a 2-round fighter. He got rid of everybody in 2 rounds. Jimmy Young figures out, let me try to drag him to 8. He gasses out. Then he couldn't fight past 2 rounds. He matures. He comes back as a 40-year-old enjoying what he's doing. He's going 12 rounds, no problem. It's all, you're not stressed out is a big deal. If you get stressed out, I don't care if you're a marathon runner, you're not going to have the energy. So he's got the combination of putting the time in with the cardio and just enjoying what he's doing. And I think that makes for superhuman cardio.
Was he born different? I mean, there's some guys you do. I talked about on the podcast earlier, and I promised the folks that I would ask you this. There's some people that just have more natural endurance. They have a capacity to hold more oxygen in their lungs, genetically. I mean, is that part of it?
I mean, Teddy, it's got to be. Look, it could be part of it, but from the second he was in that gym, he was doing extra work. So is it coincidental?
What kind of work does he do? I mean, when people see his cardio, it's beyond. What kind of workout does he do to get those kind of results?
Okay, I'll give you an example. So I have where I went to high school has a hill. So we always go up there. We always run hills. At the end, they'd have to do as many hills as they can in 5 minutes, take a minute break. 3 5-minute rounds, nothing crazy on that end. But everybody's dead at the end of that. One time we get done, right, with 3 rounds of 5 minutes running up and down the hills. He gets done. Everybody's laying on the floor. He takes another fighter, puts him on his back, and he runs up and down with the guy on his back. So
wait a minute. Hold on. Say that again. He takes a fighter and puts him.
The guy's name was Sasaki. He was from Japan. I got it on video. He put him on his back while everybody was dying and did one more hill with a guy on his back about 145 pounds. So I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, if it's genetic, but he's putting the extra time in. And he was always sparring wise. I would say he's not, if he's got a 3-5 round fight, he's sparring 10 rounds.
Well, he's willing to go to places that other people aren't willing to go. Is that fair?
No question about it. No question about it. I've seen it.
Let me ask you something, Ray. Going into this fight, I was shocked. My son was very shocked. But I was shocked to see that Umar was the favorite, and a big favorite, over Merab. And I'll tell you why I was shocked. I know he was undefeated. I know he's with Khabib. I know all that stuff. But hey, Merab's with you. You can have your Khabib, but man, I want my Ray Longo. And I'm being serious. I'm fooling around. Khabib is a GOAT. He's a legend.
Yes.
I get it. All that. They're great. And so are you. But what I was curious about is that they make Umar a huge favorite. And meanwhile, not only is your guy the champion, but he has beaten 4 former UFC champions already. So he has the better resume. He has fought the better competition. He's been in with the better, he's more experienced. He's more seasoned.
Yes.
And you take all of that. How do you just throw that into the wastebasket, so to speak, and make the other guy that kind of... how did they do... What do you think the reason was for that, number one? And number two, did that serve to motivate your guy when did he feel disrespected?
Okay, so the first thing to answer that, I'm going to say, if the guy's name was Joe Smith, the same guy, but his name was Joe Smith, who would have been the favorite in that fight? Yeah. They put the emphasis on that last name. Those guys are on a roll. They're doing great. That's what they did. When I looked at the tape, Teddy, on this guy's fights, I go, look, I could be missing something. I'm not seeing it, I'm not seeing it at all. But he is a good fighter. He's well-rounded. He's squared away. But, I thought I had the better guy going into that fight. As far as motivation on Merab, I think he's a different cat, man. I think he's going to do what he's going to do no matter what it is. I don't think he's even thinking about that. You know what I mean? They asked him in the interview, do you think you're the GOAT? He's giving it up. No, Aljo's the GOAT. Dominic Cruz is the GOAT. He's not worried about that, those trite things or those fucking, things that people get caught up on, or being on a magazine cover or TikTok and whatever. He had those social media to get his popularity up for the UFC, but for the most part, he doesn't give a shit about that. So I'm sure it was a little motivating, but I don't think he was thinking about that. And, for the odds makers, they made people a lot of money on that fight. I had a buddy bet 30,000 on Merab. So he got back, like 65 grand, I think.
It was the bookmakers aren't wrong that often, but they were way wrong.
They were way wrong on this one. They've been good. Back in the day, you could always get a good bet while the sport was still new. They didn't know what was going on. They've gotten way, way better. But this I think they took. I think that was more a compliment to Khabib than it was to Umar. There wasn't really that much on him. He didn't, he fought Corey Sandhagen before this. He didn't, it was a good fight, but he didn't starch him. Wasn't a spectacular fight. The couple of fights before with some other people, he knocked out one guy, I think. And it wasn't anything special, but I guess they thought he was going to out-wrestle Merab, and he had some good stand-up, so that was the difference. I don't know. But I think it all came from the name. That's my personal belief.
Did his camp, Umar's camp, released afterwards a picture of his hand, saying that he broke his hand. I don't think anything's come out to verify that because, as I said in our podcast earlier in my business, you can't say a hand's broken until there's an x-ray that shows a broken bone. So other than that, it's just guessing. It could be swollen, it could be bruised, it could be a lot of things, and it doesn't mean it didn't hurt him. But look, you're in a business where all you do is deal with guys that are hurt. Or, your guy was hurt, part of your business, part of my business is being mentally tough enough to overcome whatever it is that you're dealing with. And a lot of times that's an injury by the time you get done camp or in the middle of a fight. But did you see anything that made you think that Umar's hand may have been compromised?
No, not at all. I'd have to go back and look at it on tape. But during that never came up. Nobody ever said anything. Like listen, these guys, you got to remember, they're not used to losing, Teddy.
Yeah.
They don't know how to lose, to be honest with
true.
you. You know what I mean? And that they've on a good run. Back in the day, Teddy, remember even in the Olympics, when I think we beat the hockey team, the old saying, they're going to the gulag. You're never going to see these guys again.
Yeah.
It's a rough business. Khabib ain't joking around. He's a very serious guy with that.
That's true.
As far as I'm concerned, listen, after that fight, they might have taken him in the back and hit him with a hammer on the hand. I don't know. But, I didn't see anything during the fight, to be honest with you.
No, listen, that's why I love you. I love having you on. I just love truthful people, because the fans are never going to hear anything as straightforward and as honest as they're going to hear from a guy like you. And I appreciate that. Umar did a little showboating. I never saw him do that before.
Umar?
Not Umar, I'm sorry. Your guy, Merab. I'm sorry, I got confused. But so Merab did a little showboating in that fight. What do you attribute to? I had my theory. Talking to my son earlier on the podcast, my theory was that he did feel the pressure and the knowledge. He's not dumb. He's very smart. All these guys are smart. I mean, it's one thing to be tough, but if you're not smart, you're not going to be the best. You have to have a combination of being smart and tough. Then you become much tougher. He knew that they made Umar the big favorite, and the Khabib factor, whatever you want to call it. He's undefeated, all of that. Yeah. But they made him the big favorite. I'm sure that I'm not saying it bothered him, but it definitely didn't go where he was unaware of it. In my mind, it was almost like he was telling the judges, look what I'm doing to this guy. Look. Yeah, look what I'm doing. I know he's the favorite. I know you guys might have been thinking about giving him a close fight going his way, but look what I did. I'm ragdolling him. I'm throwing him around. You better get this right. Am I way off?
Well, I think you're spot on with that. There's a couple of things. You're definitely spot on. I think the fact that we talked about how comfortable he is. He did it with Cejudo. He picked him up. He walked him over to Zuckerberg. He started talking. So it's getting – I'm not saying I'm a big fan of that either, but it's getting to the point where he's so comfortable that he's having a good time. And I think he's just – it's self-expression. On another end, like what you're saying, it's humiliating. I mean, you're psychologically breaking the guy in another way. He's breaking him cardio. He's breaking him with his actions. I think for that fight in particular, as much as I'm not a guy that likes to showboating, I think he was like a nephew to everybody. I do believe you're right with that. And he was like, this is the guy? This is easy. He's throwing him down. He's laughing at him. He's letting him up. He's putting him down again. They have that one clip on there. So I think, to those guys that are very proud individuals, man, that's going to sting for a long time, Teddy. This is going to sting. This is going to sting, man. I hope he has some loving individuals around him. Not like, this could be a problem, but
we were saying that earlier, Coach, that to me watching it was like how demoralizing. I used one of my father's analogies. Umar felt like a puddle on a hot summer day. He started to evaporate. You could feel it, right?
You could see it.
And the mental side of how discouraging and demoralizing it is for this guy to be celebrating. Yeah, I felt like that was a big part of it. And then, like you said, knowing he does this a little bit, Merab, in the past, right? The O'Malley fight, obviously was another example.
He's starting to embrace a lot of things. You know what I mean? It's not planned out. It's all organic, which I love. He's not thinking about doing it. I think he feels it in the moment. And he goes with it. But you got to realize, too, that, Umar said he's not going to break St. Pierre's record on me. I'm not going to get tired. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do that. And he couldn't hold to anything. So that's why I don't like people shit-talking before a fight, because it's going to come a time you better be able to prove it. Merab was able to prove everything he said. Umar didn't prove one thing he said. He did get tired, and he did get taken down 7 times, and Merab passed GSP's takedown record, which in itself is an incredible feat.
Yeah, unbelievable. I think it was, what, 91?
91. And the guy's he's still going. I mean, whatever he ends up with, it will never be broken again. Will never be broken. He might end up with 150 takedowns, this guy.
That
Crazy.
might be a record like Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak. Nobody's breaking that.
I think so, man. I think so. Shout out to Joe D, the Clipper, man. That's great.
That's right. I wanted to ask you, though, just touching on the mental side we talked about. In this, I thought it could have been 4-1 scored, 3-2. I thought it was 2-0 Umar going in to the third round, personally. That was my opinion. And I thought it was
I didn't. By the way, I didn't. I did not.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Teddy. I think it's down to me and you with this. I had him winning 4-1.
I had it 4-1. I just said it on my podcast, so I'm not doing it for you. I said it on the podcast. So I said I either had it 4-1 or 3-2, but I favored 4-1 because I had Umar winning the first round, but then I had your guy, and then to me, I probably had it 3-1, but I said, okay, let's just say I make it 2-2. Yeah. This is all about the championship rounds, and this is all about this round, and whoever wins this round, they clearly have to fight, and he dominated the championship rounds.
Right. Yeah. Look, it's But watching that fight, Teddy, even body language, if you had the sound, who do you think looked like they were winning that fight? Like, that's where I could have got, that's where I could have got a little thrown off because he finished so strong that I go, man, we have to at least have 4 rounds. We never panicked in the corner after the first or second round, like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. I think because Umar was the favorite, like when it's a close round, you kind of you look for a way to give it to the guy. I don't know. He didn't do anything spectacular. I think he buckled him once in the first. I would have given him that round. He hit him with something. His legs buckled.
Towards the end of the round.
Yeah, I could say so. Damage wise, I go that way. But everything else, I thought it was I thought it was lopsided. You know,
we said earlier. I was saying that who would you want to be in that fight, and it was
100%. Even if the judges were drunk and they made a mistake and they gave it to Umar, is that the way you want to win a fight?
No, I think the decision was clear, and they did get it right, obviously. And I wasn't drunk. I still had it the first 2 rounds for Umar. I thought after that, you clearly started to take over and grind them out like we said. But the question I wanted to ask you was, you made a correction or an adjustment, it seemed, from Merab's end after the second round. And you told him, start backing this guy up. And you know, I thought, was that just an adjustment of taking time, of getting used to the distance, the striking, or was that something mentally as well? We talked about the infection earlier. They say when you're on antibiotics, it could sap your cardio. Was that something you think in the back of his mind? And now 2 rounds in, hey, we better start going. But it did seem like come the third round, he really started to kick into what I'm used to seeing from Merab of just relentless pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in there too again. But first off, is these guys are used to controlling the pace of a fight. They're not used to going backwards, you know. So, and they're not good at going backwards. So that was very important. The first 2 rounds, I mean, we knew if Umar had a chance, it would be early, right? You know, as his gas tank starts going down, you could see by the end of the fight, there's nothing on his kicks or punches. You know, he just didn't have the energy to sit down on anything. So, you know, he had to take his time in the first 2 rounds. And, you know, maybe next time he just goes right at him. He doesn't even care. But that's what it was. When you're backing some of these guys up who are not used to getting backed up, again, it creates a stress, and that stress is going to zap your cardio. And I think that's what he did. I didn't really want him letting up at all on the guy. I knew he was breaking. I could see it outside. You know, I don't know if he's seeing it, but that's why you got to tell him, you know, he's going to go. And I thought he did a great job with just being relentless as he always is.
Well, you specifically told him in the corner, like a good corner man. I look for that stuff. I listen for that stuff. You specifically told him a little more than that. I remember exactly what you told him. You said the only time he's hitting you is when you go straight back on a line.
Yeah.
That's the only time you're getting hit. So stop going back straight.
Yeah.
Start backing him up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's and you actually texted me that, which was nice. Thank you. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, I wanted him. Look, even for some of the linear stuff, just going side to side will take that away. Just footwork alone could take it away. So I don't want to get into that with you, Teddy, but going back in a straight line is never good. You know what I mean? So I'm glad he was able to make that adjustment and start imposing his will. And again, I'm more in the corners. It's more to me about motivation. I mean, the technical work should already be in. Yeah, if a guy's keeping his chin up in the air, you want to do that, but he's got to know that he's got people with him. You know what I mean? You got to make it like that where he's fighting for something else also. So I try to go more on the motivational stuff unless I see something really obscene with the technical stuff. And yeah, but 9 out of 10 times it works out good. But sometimes you get it wrong. But for this night, we were on point.
Teddy, you got more?
Yeah. What would you like to see? A lot of people are saying the rematch, and they may buy into what we touched on earlier, that maybe his hand was compromised during the fight. Do you think the rematch is the rematch something you want? Does Merab want, or is there anybody? I know you're just digesting it, but
yeah,
what would you like to see next?
I don't think Merab cares because I've actually spoke to him about it, but I think the UFC is probably going to want to make that O'Malley rematch. And Umar, look, the kid's a good fighter. He comes from a great camp. He's got to get a couple of wins before he's back in there, broken hand or not. I didn't think he deserved the shot going in based on what Merab had to do. I just think it was only fair. He had to go through 4 or 5 champions, ex-champions that are still fighting today. Not that they're gone. There was their retirement fight. They're still
100%.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I just think it's only fair. Go out and prove yourself. Fight 2 times, and then Merab will 100% rematch. He was never running from you. He just didn't think it was right. Neither did I, that he had to walk through fire, and this guy just kind of got gifted off of 1 win, and not even, that dominant a win.
Right. It was just also so refreshing to see the loyalty pay off, which is very rare in life, let alone in sports, right? With Aljamain, with Merab, and waiting, and for it to come into fruition, it was beautiful to watch that.
Yeah, they're all both successful now. Those guys could have broken up a friendship that's going to last forever. And I'm putting certain things way before money. I'm not. It's you see, when you're a money guy, you think you could buy everybody with money. But when money's not your god, they don't even get it. They don't get it. They don't get why he wouldn't do certain things for money. But it just doesn't have the meaning to him as it does to you. That guy, he'd be happy. He's going to be happy no matter what. Even if he had to go back to construction tomorrow, that guy's going to be happy. You're not changing who he is.
Well, I'll tell you someone else, you're not changing who they are, you. And that comes across pretty clear. You're genuine. You're exactly what you present yourself to be. Just a straightforward, good person. And I just want to thank you again. I know that you just got back from California, Ray. I know you've been doing interviews and podcasts. You have your own podcast. I know you've been doing podcasts and interviews all day long. I know the last thing you needed was freaking Teddy Atlas calling you to do another podcast. I know that, but you're a gentleman.
Teddy, you're up here on the priority list now. I'm telling you right now. You're up here.
Well, listen, you're the same place with me. And just, again, not only thanks for joining us and the fans getting a chance to hear that things that could only come from the inside man and the truth that you just put out there, but just for being the class act you are and a great coach, a great gentleman, and really a great ambassador for your sport. I appreciate you, Ray. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much. And Teddy Jr., don't listen to your dad. You need anything, call me. You're not bothering me. If you bother me, I'll be the first guy to tell you. But right now, if you need anything, let's get you going in this podcast thing. Just whatever you need, let me know. I know your father, he kind of, I don't like when he says, I don't want to bother you. You're not bothering me. It's all good.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that. What I needed, the first thing is I need to get out of his basement. That's what I need. I need to get out of this basement. But it's happening.
Listen, I say this, though, Teddy. I said, if Weidman was still in his mother's basement, he would have never lost. You need that. You need that thing where you want to get out and you never want to go back to. It's going to make you stronger. Weidman would have never lost if he was still in that basement. I'm 1,000,000% sure of that.
Teddy, you're staying. Yeah. You just heard it from a world champion coach. You're staying put. Got to keep you hungry.
100%. 1,000,000%.
And Ray, hopefully we'll get Merab on. Thank you next week. I just want our fans to know when they hear this that we're going to look to have Merab on also next week. Is that right?
We're going to make it happen, yeah.
Coach, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Hey, nice meeting you, Teddy Jr. And Teddy, I'll see you. I'll get in touch with you this week with the Merab stuff.
Yeah, and give him congratulations and our best, please.
Will do, 100%. All right, guys. Listen, have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.
You got it, Coach. Thank you.
Take it easy, guys. Take care. Nice meeting you, Junior.
You as well.
Bye, Ray. Thank you.